In the final seconds of this video, I'll show you something that will change everything. If you stick around until then, you'll discover a secret the world has tried to bury. But first, let's talk about something that might surprise you. Have you ever played the classic game of Battleship? Well, imagine if the game ended before anyone could place their ships, if the rules kept changing without warning, and if some players secretly sunk your ships while you were distracted. That's kind of how the Vietnam War felt for Cambodia and Laos, except with real-life consequences. You see, the Vietnam War wasn't just a battle on maps, it was a global struggle for influence. And the US wanted to support South Vietnam against the communist threat of North Vietnam. But here's where the game changes. The problem for the US was that North Vietnam had vital supplies coming in through Laos and Cambodia, specifically along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. This secret network of paths through jungles and across rivers supplied food, weapons, and soldiers to the North Vietnamese army, making it an essential part of their war effort. Now, the US wanted control of the seas and air, but couldn't easily target the trail inside these countries. Enter the secret weapon: bombing campaigns. Yes, I'm talking about those big explosions that shook the ground. Starting in 1965, the US began Operation Rolling Thunder, more than 11,000 bombing missions over North Vietnam. But as the war dragged on, the US sought new ways to pressure North Vietnam. That's when they turned their attention to Laos and Cambodia, especially Cambodia under the leadership of Prince Norodom Sihanouk, who maintained a policy of neutrality in the conflict. However, the US believed that Cambodia's neutrality was a cover for supporting North Vietnam. And so the bombings began, not just on military targets, but also on villages suspected of aiding North Vietnam. Bombs rained down, killing not only soldiers but innocent civilians, destroying homes, farms, and schools. It was a heavy blow to these neutral nations, especially Laos, which became known as the Secret War. You might think, well, at least the US was honest about its intentions. But that's where the game becomes even more bizarre. While Congress authorized President Johnson to take all necessary measures to protect US forces, he didn't declare war. So the bombing of Laos and Cambodia was done under the guise of an undeclared war. Add to that, the US government didn't release many details about the bombing campaigns to the public, calling it a limited military operation or tactical airstrikes. What's more, the US asked neighboring countries like Thailand to keep the bombing a secret. For example, Thailand allowed US planes to use its air bases to fly secret missions into Cambodia. Even today, the true scale and impact of these bombings remains largely unknown. Some estimates suggest that during the peak of the bombing campaign, up to 300 planes flew daily missions over Laos and Cambodia. The US dropped around 260,000 tons of bombs, an average of 850 bombs per day. Just for comparison, the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in World War II weighed about 6.2 kilograms of plutonium-239 each. And yet the bombing of Laos and Cambodia continues to be one of the least understood aspects of the Vietnam War. It's as though the US wanted to wage war on two fronts without anyone noticing. Why do you think that is? We'll discuss in just a moment. But first, let's dive into the result of this secret war, something that shocked the world. You may be thinking, wow, the US must have won this secret war, right? Well, hold on to your hats because things took an unexpected turn. The US had hoped that its bombing campaign would weaken North Vietnam and force it to the negotiating table. But as often happens in wars, things didn't go as planned. Instead of breaking North Vietnam's will to fight, the bombings had the opposite effect. They turned the tide of public opinion both domestically and internationally. You see, as the bombings continued, causing massive civilian casualties and destruction, more and more people began to question the war. Suddenly, anti-war protests erupted across the United States, led by young people who had never known a world without the Vietnam War. They questioned the war's purpose and demanded peace. Meanwhile, on the ground in Cambodia, the situation was dire. The bombings caused massive displacement of people, destroying homes and livelihoods. As refugees fled to neighboring countries, the region grappled with poverty, hunger, and disease. It was a humanitarian crisis hidden from the world's view. Then came the Khmer Rouge, a communist movement that exploited the chaos to seize power in 1975. Under the leadership of Pol Pot, they established a brutal regime, forcing people to work long hours in agricultural fields, killing those who didn't meet quotas, and even targeting intellectuals and religious leaders. It was a nightmare scenario for the US, which had hoped to contain communism in the region. Instead, it had inadvertently helped its greatest enemy grow stronger. To make matters worse, the Cambodian genocide gained international attention, turning the world's gaze toward the horrors of the Khmer Rouge regime. In response, the US government shifted its policy towards Cambodia. They pulled out their secret weapon once again: diplomacy. They recognized the new regime in 1977, hoping for a more cooperative relationship. But this only fueled more instability in the region, setting the stage for a new chapter in the conflict. The US didn't want to lose face, so instead of acknowledging its role in creating this mess, it blamed others. They accused China and the Soviet Union of supporting Cambodia's new regime, escalating tensions during the Cold War. But the truth was more complex than a simple blame game. The US had sown the seeds of discord in the region, and now it was reaping the whirlwind. The Cambodian genocide was a dark stain on the nation's history, drawing worldwide condemnation. It was a stark reminder of the unintended consequences of war and the importance of considering the human cost of conflict. The genocide in Cambodia grabbed the world's attention. Finally, it brought the horrors of the Vietnam War home to many Americans. After years of classified operations and hidden casualty numbers, suddenly people were asking questions. The silence was shattered. But what came next surprised everyone. Now, you might be wondering, what could have changed everything? Well, I've kept something important until the end, a piece of the puzzle that adds a shocking twist to this tale. As the US faced criticism for its role in the war, it made a surprising move. It invited journalists and filmmakers to Cambodia and Laos to document the aftermath of the bombing. But these weren't ordinary reports. They were carefully orchestrated events. US officials guided these visitors to specific areas, showing them only what they wanted to see. It was a strategy to counter negative publicity and shape the narrative about the war. But guess what? Something unexpected happened. A documentary crew broke ranks. They ventured beyond the tightly controlled zones, speaking to villagers who shared horrifying stories of the bombings. Their findings shook the nation. People realized the true cost of the secret war. It was a turning point. But what was the real motive behind all of this secrecy? Well, the truth is more complicated than you might think. The US had several reasons for keeping the war hidden. First, they didn't want other nations, especially allies, to get involved. By operating in secret, they could avoid potential diplomatic complications and maintain the appearance of acting unilaterally. Second, they wanted to avoid domestic backlash. The Vietnam War was already unpopular. Adding 2 more conflicts to the mix could have inflamed anti-war sentiment, making it harder to maintain public support. Finally, they hoped to win hearts and minds. By avoiding the media spotlight, the US believed it could build closer ties with governments in Laos and Cambodia. Sadly, this strategy backfired. The Cambodian genocide turned the tide against the US, but the legacy of the secret war still echoes today. The unexploded bombs continue to claim victims. The scars of the bombings remain visible across the landscape, serving as grim reminders of the past. But perhaps the most haunting legacy is the silence. For years, the world remained oblivious to the suffering in Laos and Cambodia. But now we know better. The truth has a way of coming out, no matter how hard we try to bury it. And this story is a powerful reminder of the importance of seeking the truth, no matter how painful it might be. And here's the kicker: this isn't ancient history. All this happened within the last half-century. We're talking about our recent past. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more. And if you're ready to dive deeper into the mysteries of our world, check out my other videos. Click here to see how the internet was created by accident, or click here to uncover what NASA won't tell you about aliens. See you next time.
Attention. Pay very close attention. I'm about to show you something incredible in the next 3.1 seconds. Do you want access to Google's certification methodology, where you can earn $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, or even more? It's a methodology that very few people know about, a true blue ocean opportunity. Many people are making excellent money with this approach. Remember, this is not easy money. Easy money doesn't exist. This is something Google itself offers, and very few people are aware of it. Anyone can apply this methodology. We present the entire process in an ebook. It's something that has high demand in today's market. A huge opportunity, and you don't need to sell courses or anything like that. Plus, you can do everything from home. The original price of the ebook is $147, but you'll only pay half that, which is $73. Actually, you won't even pay that. The price you'll pay is just $9.97. It's practically free considering the value you're getting, and you'll also get an amazing 100% free bonus. And your risk is zero, because after your purchase, you still have a 7-day guarantee to ask for your money back. We give you access to all the content and the bonus, and you still have the guarantee to get your money back. Hurry and get the ebook at this promotional price, as it could go up at any moment. Click the link in the first pinned comment.